Welcome to 2 Cents Short of a Dollar, the show where we give our 2 cents and keep it 100. We're your host. That's Motiz. I'm Rue. Got a special guest in the building today. We got Atlas. Atlas, jump right in. Introduce yourself before we get into the fight from last night.
Yeah, definitely. My name is Atlas, real name Christian. Known Mock for a couple of years now since high school, but like on the side, I have a little reselling business that I do. Sell vintage sneakers. Sold some sneakers to Virgil Abloh, PJ Tucker.
Nice.
So that's something that I do kind of like on the side.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's dope. That's dope. Yo, you guys watching the video, make sure I'll leave his link or his actual Instagram here on the page. Definitely, go to visit his site. He got some good sneakers there. He got a good service. Excellent. Will highly recommend. So definitely
go get you
I'll
some
leave it.
kicks.
Yeah, go get you some, some good feats. Some good feet, man.
You gotta get those vintage kicks up, man.
Facts. You see StockX and all them. They ain't top flight anymore. They letting fake sneakers get through, pipeline. You gotta explore other opportunities. And my man Atlas here, he got you.
Yeah. So last night, Devin Haney, Lomachenko, the fight we've been waiting for, it actually came. I don't think it disappointed, but I definitely want to hear what you guys think about the fight. There's a lot of controversy going around saying that it was a robbery. So do you guys think there was a robbery?
I'm gonna let Atlas go. How do you feel, Atlas? Do you think it was a robbery? And then I'll go, and then we'll swing back to Rue.
Listen, I think watching it live and then taking the day to kind of like think it over is different. Watching it live, my first reaction was, I didn't think Haney won. Didn't think he won. Robbery? Short answer, no. I don't think it was a robbery.
Okay.
I don't think it was a robbery. I think it was a very close fight.
Okay.
I think the rounds that Haney won, which, if like in my personal opinion, they were more of the middle rounds. It was so close that you could have given it to Loma, and I think that's where this whole robbery kind of like thing is coming about, where those rounds are so close that I don't think they were so evident that Haney won those rounds. And then I think the way Loma closed it out, he closed it out where Haney looked as if he was going to go down, as if it was going to be one more round where if Loma keeps being the aggressor, he was going to take him down.
Gotcha.
But that didn't happen. But I think that's the reason why, in my eyes, a lot of people are calling it a robbery. I don't think it was a robbery. I think it was, now thinking about over a day, I think it was a fair, unanimous decision for Haney, but robbery now. From my eyes now, it wasn't a robbery.
Okay.
That was a good assessment. And I echo the same sentiment to a degree. Initially, when I first heard the announcement, I was compelled at first to be like, yo, they really got it wrong. This might be a robbery, right? But then I had to really sit and think, and after a day, I was just like, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a robbery, only because it's a close fight. However, there is a thin line between making a wrong decision and robbery. And I think robbery, we can all agree, is when it's like a clear or blatant wrong choice, right? And I felt like that fight could have potentially been a draw, right? In my honest opinion, of course, I thought Loma won the fight, or I would have been okay with the draw. I think Haney winning was probably the least likely outcome just based off of how I viewed the fight. But I would probably agree. I don't think necessarily, I wouldn't call it a robbery in a sense, but it's subjective to a degree. I wouldn't necessarily kind of, crucify someone if they did say it's a robbery, but I wouldn't call it a robbery. But I do think the judges got it wrong. What about you, Ru?
Yeah, so for me, like a robbery, not every robbery is, a massive heist. Some robberies, you just barely get away with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And in this one, I think they just stole this one from Vasily Lomachenko.
Okay.
I do actually think it was a robbery. And the reason why I think it was a robbery is because I watched the fight. And when I watched the fight, yes, I hear some people saying it could have been a draw, maybe. But the outcome I just couldn't see was 7 rounds or more for Devin Haney. Like I had it 7 rounds to 5 for Lomachenko, but let's say if someone, say, okay, but I had this swing round right here, and it was 6-6. Okay, maybe we can get into a debate about that. I just couldn't see 7+ rounds for Devin Haney last night.
Got it. Which makes sense, right? And I think it's probably one of those things, where we're just all of us are probably just throwing the term, or there's some people just throwing the term out there, robbery. And I like the way you explained it, right? It could just be a theft, but it's still within the lines of being a robbery. It's all how you define it. Those in the comment section definitely feel free. Let us know if it is a robbery, right? So I guess.
But wait. Before we go forth, though, something I kind of want to put out there, in terms of the robbery or whatever. So, Dave Moretti, right?
Mhm.
He has to stop judging fights.
Yeah, he has to. He has to,
right? Because
he's in too many cases where. But I'll let you finish.
Yeah, because him giving the 10th round to Haney, I just cannot see that. He was the one who had it 116, 112, which equates to 8 rounds to 4. But Dave Moretti, and another judge last night as well, Tim Cheatham, they actually also judged Canelo Bivol, where they had that 7-5 for Canelo. For Bivol, and we can all probably agree here that was much wider than 7-5. Right. So the judges just continuously to do these things that are very questionable. And to stay on Dave Moretti, he's the one in round 2 of Tank Ryan that scored at 10-10 despite the knockdown.
Right.
So he's like a serial offender here.
Right. And you bring up a good point too. And I also feel like to Christian's point as well, the influence of using the term robbery also comes from these series of events that's been occurring this year, right? Mm-hmm. When we see Chris Colbert, right? Clearly not winning that fight, but that was a clear robbery. Yeah. Right. Or even Rolly Romero, right? In his last fight, clear robbery. Like it was clear corruption going on, right? Without evidence, but if you clearly have eyes and you have common sense, you know what's going on. So I also think that plays a big factor when it comes to big fights and judges continuously not getting it right. Why would we give them the benefit of the doubt now, especially if they've been scoring fights terribly in the past? So I guess this goes down to the next point, next section here. I just want to kind of go and ask the both of you, how did you guys score the fight? Right. I'll start with Atlas. How did you score the fight? What was your score? And then what was your one biggest takeaway of the fight?
All right, listen, I have the breakdown. So I was texting my brother literally throughout the whole fight, and I was telling him exactly who I gave the rounds to. Right. At the end, I had a 6-6, a draw. And it was round 2, and I still have the text I sent them. Round 2, where I told them this round I gave it to Loma, but I could have easily given it to Haney. So if I have a 6-6, but if I change that round and give it to Haney, it's an easy 7-5 to Haney. So that's how close this fight was. That's why, like, the whole term robbery, like I can't accept that because it was just so close. But like at the end, I had a 6-6. I thought it was a draw. I think towards like from round 4 to about 8 or 9, it was all Haney. I think those middle rounds, Haney won, and it was so close that you could have given it to Loma. But the ones that Loma did win, again, I think we could all agree he won convincingly. Like there was no shot that Haney won those rounds. But yeah, I had a 6-6 draw.
Okay. And what was like your biggest takeaway just watching the fight? Like one thing that you was kind of surprised about, one thing that you kind of was, oh, this is interesting, just from the performance aspect of just both fighters?
To be honest, I thought Haney was going to be more dominant. I thought because of the age of Loma, he was going to be a bit more slower. But I honestly, I was surprised that when Loma did catch Haney, Haney was actually hurt by it. Like I know in his previous fights, he did get hurt before, but I thought Loma being the smaller guy, he wasn't going to hurt Devin Haney as much. But that's something that really surprised me by the fight.
Got it. Go ahead, Ru. Same question.
As I mentioned previously, I had it 7-5 for Lomachenko. I thought he won the fight. And my biggest takeaways are Loma, I think, controlled the geography of the fight. In the beginning, it was back and forth. Loma would back him up some, Haney would back him up some. But in the totality of the fight, I think Loma controlled the geography of the fight. I think Loma was more active. I guess we could use CompuBox for that, but just with my eyes as well. Devin landed some good counters, but I just feel like Loma was more active. He threw more punches. I think he landed the cleaner punches. He was snapping Devin Haney's head back all night. And to me, those were cleaner than some of those right hand uppercuts to the body. Now, though Devin was landing those, for me, when you land a really good body shot, the other guy, he tends to slow down or maybe stop.
Right.
And Loma never really slowed down. That doesn't mean it wasn't good shots, but I just think that shows they weren't all that clean. Some of them were right on the belt line, some a little below the belt line. I don't think they were like Errol Spence or Canelo Alvarez body shots, right?
Right.
So I just thought the cleaner punches came from Vasyl Lomachenko. I think he landed more punches. I think he controlled the pace, pushed the action. He did not start slow, in my opinion, as people have accused him of in the past. So I don't know. I just really couldn't see Lomachenko not winning that fight. It was tough when I heard that. I was like, wow. And we know, like, my prediction was for Haney to win the fight, actually.
Yeah. So and what would you say was kind of surprising, or like your biggest takeaway watching the fight? Like what kind of like was interesting, or what did you?
How flustered he made Devin Haney, especially when and you text me early. You was like, wow, Lomachenko's cutting off the ring on Devin Haney. And how flustered Haney was in those spots. You know what I'm saying? Because I think, hold him as a good defensive fighter, right?
Right.
So just when the pressure was on him, how flustered he was getting, and sometimes he just didn't look like he knew what to do. That really surprised me. Like last night looked like they were on two different levels in spurts of the fight.
Right. And it's both great, excellent points. You know, from my perspective, I initially scored the fight 7-5 Lomachenko way, right? There were some swing rounds. I can understand, to your point, Atlas, Christian, that there are certain rounds that you can give Devin Haney. But my point is this: if you have a fight that's so close where you have swing rounds where you're like, I don't know what round to give either fighter, then at that point, you know, you can argue any fighter can win. But I think when it gets down to, okay, if you have several or more rounds where you don't know who won those rounds, and then you have rounds where this one fighter is convincingly winning, then you gotta reward that fighter. If you're talking about if you say which fighter won the more convincing rounds, it's obviously Lomachenko.
Yeah.
Right. And I think by default of that theory, you have to give it to Lomachenko, especially given what Rue said, you know, his activity. He started early. He was able to land the cleaner punches. He was able to land kind of, whether it's pity patty shots, combinations more, you know, he's able to kind of have Devin flustered to the point where Devin, Rue, you mentioned this, where Devin went back to the corner like he knows what I'm about to do. Who's able to counter him, you know.
One of the craziest things I've ever heard.
Right.
Yeah, that was around like what, the middle of I think that was around 5, 6, or around those rounds.
It was before Loma really went crazy too. Yep. That's why it was surprising, because his dad like, what's going on? He's like, he knows what I'm about to do.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have that going on, and of course, obviously, you know, the experience level was there shown, right? And it goes to the next point in terms of my biggest takeaway. My biggest takeaway from the fight was I was really surprised, like you, Atlas and Rue. I know, Rue, you chose Haney to win. I chose Lomachenko to win, but I did expect Devin Haney to perform a bit better, right? Watching the fight, the biggest takeaway was Lomachenko showed that he was a level above Devin Haney when it came to skill. When Lomachenko was cutting off the ring and shooting from a different angle, sidestepping and shoot from a different angle, Devin Haney looked flustered, and he just didn't know where the combinations was coming from. At a certain point in time, he kind of just disregarded or kind of took away his shoulder roll. But I will say, though, Devin Haney did come alive at certain moments of the fight. He didn't buckle, you know, until, of course, the 11th round where he literally buckled. And this comes down to, you know, and to your point, Atlas, sometimes and what I tell you, Rue, sometimes you can be the bigger fighter, but if you don't have more punching power than the smaller fighter, the size does not matter. And Lomachenko has proved time and time again, if you're the bigger fighter, you're not going to be able to bully me. I'm going to be able to dictate and get my way with you.
Yeah. Even the physicality, there was a couple times where Loma just like tossed him across the ring. It's like he wasn't going to let Devin win the battle of physicality.
Right.
Man, that was, I'm not going to lie, that was a crazy fight last night. I remember in the first 4 rounds, Max Kellerman had it 3-1 for Haney. I didn't agree, but I was just like, is this fight going somewhere weird right now? Because I didn't think it was 3-1 for Haney, but nevertheless, then you see progressively as the fight went on, he actually
Right.
finished on the unofficial 115, 113 for Loma as well.
Yeah. Atlas, you was gonna say something?
No, yeah. I just wanted to give going into this fight, I was kind of rooting for. I told Mark I was rooting for Loma, but I thought Haney was gonna win. What did I say? Majority
Yeah, you
decision,
did.
right?
You said
I said
majority.
majority decision. I said I don't know, for some reason I think Haney giving those like little jabs, those count when it comes to the judges' scorecard. Again, I think the point is we have to ask, like, how are the judges scoring? Because if they're just scoring like little taps on the arms and those count towards winning the round, then we really have to like rewatch the whole fight. Because if you look at it, Haney literally was kept touching him every time they were together. Boom, he'll be the first one to touch him.
Yeah, he'll kind of like use his lead hand, and it was crazy too because I actually thought Devin Haney was going to be more successful with the jab, and
No, he wasn't.
Loma was really kind of taking away or limiting Devin Haney's jab throughout the fight. But going back to what you were saying in terms of the judges, how they scored the fight, that is a good point, because maybe them little slat or them little blocks that Loma's catching the jabs with, they might be scoring it towards Devin Haney's way, which would probably be a ridiculous way to score a fight. But I also felt as though I was just surprised at the fact that they didn't give Loma the benefit of the doubt. I think the way they scored this fight was as if Loma was a journeyman coming into this fight, fighting the champion. And, you know, they usually give the champion the benefit of the doubt. If it's a close fight, they're generally always going to favor the champion. And I feel like that's something that has to change in boxing. You know, you have to be fair, because look at what Loma has done for the sport of boxing, you know, especially how he had to kind of come back and climb up the ranks. Like, come on, you don't do it that way, you know. If you guys are unsure, it has to be a draw.
Yeah. What was crazy to me too is that right to the body, even though he had success with it early, it wasn't as successful later on in the fight, right? Loma started to do things to kind of neutralize it some. Was Devin ever going to block a left hand last night?
Oh my God. He was getting in between with his lead foot and throwing that cross too right to Devin Haney every time. Devin Haney
sometimes he doubled it.
Yeah, and he was doubling it, and Devin Haney couldn't see it.
Like, bro,
he could not see it, bro. Like, it was crazy because he could not see it, and at times it looked like Devin Haney was just so overwhelmed, and that's why when the 11th round came, he just dominated Devin Haney. To the point where, like, some people can argue that could have been a 10-8 round.
Yeah,
the way he dominated him, because that was by far the clearest round of the whole fight.
Yeah,
and, you know, almost stopped him, had him backed up almost, you know, and you can argue, oh wow, Loma, you could have pressed the gas a bit more, whatnot. But I felt like Loma, just his activity throughout the duration of the fight, I felt like in his mind, he felt like he did enough.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know, he did enough to win the fight, you know, or at the very least, you know, have a draw. But you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And I'm actually shocked by how the masses, right, the vast majority of fans are saying, you know, Loma won, right? And let's take away the fans for a minute. Let's talk about the experts, right? The boxing experts, the boxers themselves. 99% of them are saying either Loma won or it should have been a draw.
Right.
So clearly that speaks volumes in terms of what should have happened, right? Because, you know, you have a small minority saying Devin Haney won. And I think, you know, it really just depends on their outlook on the fight. But I would probably say in most instances, those who are saying Devin Haney won probably are a bit biased, or they may have just judged the fight in a different way than most people would, you know. So.
Now, let me ask you a question. If that 116, 112 judge didn't score it like that, and let's say he scored it, everyone scored the 115, 113, would we be reacting the same way?
I think less people will probably say it's a robbery, right? But I do think most people still be like, it shouldn't. I think it's the unanimous part, right? Yeah. So let's say he scores that same individual scores it the opposite way. He 115, 113 Loma's way, right? So now it's you know, I think that less people will probably be saying, oh, it'll be, the sentiment wouldn't be robbery. It'll just probably be like, they may have gotten it wrong only because of the decision. But I think if it would have been a draw, I think more people from both sides would have been okay with it. Yeah. Right. I don't think it would have been as controversial. But if Loma would have won, it still would have been less controversial.
Yeah.
There still would have been a minority of people saying Devin Haney won.
Yeah,
To be honest, in order for something to be controversial, you need the vast majority to say it's controversial.
Yeah.
You know what this fight reminded me of? This one in particular, like as far as like the reaction, the result. I'm not sure if you guys remember when Canelo fought Triple G, the
Yes.
second fight, which they gave it to Canelo that he won.
Right.
But in everyone's eyes, well, you know, everyone was pretty much saying that was a draw. I had a draw as well. I had the first fight. Like I don't want to go talk about the past, but I had
okay.
the first fight. I had Triple G won that fight, won the first one, and then the second one I had a draw. But it was a draw because it was just so close of a match where there was just swing rounds. You could have given it to one fighter, and this is what this fight reminded me of. So
let me, sorry to cut you off. So let me ask you, it's like in that fight though, with Canelo winning, you can probably argue in that case, most people was probably okay with either Canelo winning or it being a draw compared to the first fight. The first fight though was like
Triple G.
Most people were saying Triple G won, but they called it a draw in that sense, right? So, and if you watch that first fight in comparison to this fight, I think that's, and it depends on how you view it. Do you think that the first fight was closer to this fight, or do you think the second fight was closer to this fight?
The second fight. So okay. The second fight, I know that they gave it to Canelo, but for me, that specific fight, the second one, I saw it as a draw, and it could have gone to Canelo, right? But I think even in that one, there was a specific judge. I forgot what was the score that they gave, where it was a controversial one as well. They were like, what? Like it was so close that it couldn't have been that large of a margin. But yeah, like coming out of this fight, I was just like, damn, that reminded me of Triple G at Canelo Part 2.
Yeah. No, it was definitely, you know, a close fight. I'm not sure, you know, Lomachenko's camp, they stated that they was going to look to appeal it. Of course, it's not going to go far, but they mentioned it's just about principle. And even though it won't go far, just the fact that they want to kind of go and show the boxing world that, you know, things do need to change, and the boxing judges need to be held accountable and be more strict when they're actually submitting their scores. And I do agree, right? Not only for this fight in particular, just for other fights, right? So now on Devin Haney's performance against Lomachenko, where does he stack against the top lightweights? And when I say the top lightweights, we're referring to Gervonta Tank Davis or Shakur Stevenson, aka Shakur Sugar Stevenson.
So Shakur, who, you know, has a relationship with Devin, even came in the ring yesterday and was like, you know, he think Lomachenko won that fight. He's like, man, Lomachenko should be undisputed champ of the world right now. He won that fight. That fight. You can find other videos where Shakur says he had either 8-4 Loma or 7-5 Loma. But what I took away from when Shakur got in the ring is Devin, who I don't think was very confident that in himself that he won the fight, he didn't want to stick around to have that conversation. He got a little bit, I'm the number one guy. But he couldn't really stand there toe-to-toe with Shakur because he knows Shakur was going to let him have it about what really just took place.
Right.
So I think, and I'm going to be on the record, previously, I had Devin in front of Shakur. I just thought, you know, he showed me a little bit more against better competition. But in my heart of heart, I can never see Shakur being pressured like that and kind of like folding in ways that Devin folded. I have to say Shakur above Devin. I'm gonna go Tank first. I'm gonna go Tank, Shakur, Devin. Like what Devin showed me last night, regardless if I thought he won or lost, my takeaway is just the way he was just like taken out of his game plan. The top jab in boxing, as some would say, where was it? You know what I'm saying? And I know southpaws can take that away. Shakur and Tank are both southpaws as well, but it just, he couldn't execute the game plan. And I just think against Shakur and Gervonta, it's going to be much of the same, if not worse.
Okay. All right. What about you, Atlas?
I agree. Personally, the way I've always had it was Tank, Shakur, and Haney.
Okay.
Now, at the moment, and this is only because of the fights that Haney has had so far, I think he's had the bigger fights.
Right.
So if anything, like if I was to put it as far as like name wise, getting like being the favorite, I would put Haney second and then Shakur, only because Shakur really hasn't had a big fight like that. But me personally, I think if Haney was to go against Shakur, we spoke about this, Mo. I feel Shakur is a much more patient fighter and much more stronger fighter than Haney. I think what we're saying now is Haney, because he's having these big fights, he's making a lot of mistakes. He's still young, what, 24, 25? So we are seeing like all of his mistakes that he's making, but you never know. Like these mistakes that he's making in these big fights, that's experience right there. So if he fights against Shakur doesn't really have those experienced fighters and those experienced fights that Haney has. So if anything, maybe Haney has a little upper hand when they fight. But me personally, I still think it's Tank, Shakur, and Haney.
Okay. I respect that. I respect that. Like I said before, and just to kind of echo what Rue said, I think, just from watching Devin Haney and Loma fight yesterday, the skill gap kind of really showed, and it kind of just showed me that I was probably giving Devin Haney much more credit than I probably should have in the past. And I think Devin Haney also showed that he can always improve, but I think his ceiling is a bit lower than I initially thought, right? His style he didn't really show me much in terms of fighting the inside. His defensive ability wasn't really too sharp, or really what isn't there compared to like when I watch Shakur fight. He's the more polished fighter. In the inside, he just makes quick work of you. I just truly believe if you swap places between Devin Haney and Shakur yesterday, Shakur would have been able to handle what Loma was giving him. At least he would have looked better doing so, and hence that's it's a big reason because he's a southpaw as well. And I think him watching the fight as well, I think Shakur now has a confidence booster. He looked at that fight and was like, yeah, I'm gonna do some things to this boy.
Pause. What do you mean by that?
Right? He's like, I'm gonna cook him up. Like he's seen some things. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna cook him up. And even after the fight, during the post press conference, Haney didn't really sound confident in jumping into a Shakur Stevenson fight right away. I think he's entertaining the idea of actually moving up more than fighting Shakur Stevenson.
Yeah. But Tank, just imagine fighting Tank and not being able to stop that left hand though.
Yeah, you notice I didn't even bring up Tank, right? Let's just leave that alone because Tank stopping Devin Haney, stopping him immediately. I don't want to bring Tank into the Tank is on another stratosphere. I think what this fight has done for Devin Haney is not a positive thing. I think it somewhat villainized him to a degree. So now his next fight, if he fights Shakur, more people's going to be rooting for Shakur than Devin Haney. Especially since Shakur is already he's getting traction. But now after this fight, the Lomachenko fans, they're really going to be like, nah, fuck that. Even the people that was in the middle between, now they're going to favor Shakur Stevenson over Devin Haney only because of, how this fight kind of concluded. So I would say, those in the comment section, like, comment, subscribe, let us know. Is one or more of us tweaking when it comes to our decision and how we scored the fight, right? And let us know your thoughts, right? So again, thank you, Atlas, for joining us today, giving your 2 cents.
Yeah, definitely appreciate you, man.
Yeah, we look forward to having you back on and continuing this journey. So thank you guys. 2 cents for the dollar.
We out.